You're gonna learn today. Now, it may not seem like it is, but audio is probably the most important thing about your film.
Hang on a second. This sounds a little bit empty, so I'm gonna add a light buzzing sound, so that way you can hear the sound of my light, and I'm gonna make it seem like there's a fan going on too, just so that way my studio feels a little bit more lived in. And of course, you gotta add a music track.
Now, visuals are important, of course, but sound is really the thing that makes your video feel alive. Not only that, but like someone can be watching your video and they can forgive something like lower video quality, lower animation quality, but they cannot forgive it if your audio sounds like this. Alright, now chances are your audio doesn't sound like that because you gotta really screw up for that to be the case. But low audio quality isn't the only way your audio can sound bad or incomplete.
Without the proper use of sound, your video will sound empty. And if your video sounds empty, then the viewer will not be able to be immersed into your film.
So how do we make sure this doesn't happen?
Step 1. Building the atmosphere with just audio.
Atmosphere is important here, fellas. What you want your audience to feel when they're watching your video is communicated through the sounds that they hear. It's communicated through the audio. And your scene's audio should be built up of these 4 key things: ambience, sound effects, music, and voice acting. At least that's how I've come to kind of understand this, okay? I've been teaching myself this for about 10 years, so. Alright, so let's start with ambience. Imagine you're in a forest. The wind flows through the leaves of the tree branches. The grass whistles. Birds are chirping. The sounds of a lake nearby. It's pretty immersive, huh? And it's actually not that hard to put together. Let's walk through putting together something like a beach setting. Alright, we gotta think about what a beach sounds like and then get those sounds. Like, you know, the normal waves, seagulls, cars maybe? Okay, great. So we know what the sounds are, but how do we get those sounds? This place has got everything. Y'all new age brick filmers, y'all don't know how nice you have it. You don't know the struggle of trying to find something on findsounds.com, okay? You guys have it good. Alright, so let's do this. Ocean wave sounds, check. Seagull sounds, check. Car sounds, check. Sun beaming. Never mind that one. Now, there's a couple ways to rip these sounds off of YouTube. One is to use a YouTube to MP3 converter you can find on Google. There's a lot of them, and I used to use them for everything. But I heard something about them being sketchy once, so now I use a program called Voicemeeter Banana and Audacity. Voicemeeter tricks your computer into thinking it's a pair of speakers, and allows me to directly record audio from my PC at high quality. Okay, let's put this ambience together, this beach ambience. This segment is a little long, so if you want to skip it, just skip to here. Now, I use Adobe Premiere Pro, but as long as your editing software allows you to put in multiple tracks like this, it should work. Alright, so first, let's get our ocean waves, because that's kind of like the main sound that we're going to be hearing. So we have our ocean sounds. Maybe we want it to be a little bit quieter, because we want it to be serene. We don't want any sound to be too overpowering. Alright, then let's get our seagulls. I don't like that sound. That sound is nice, but I've heard it a billion times before is the issue. So that's way in the background. I'm going to put that way in the background. I'm going to put it around here in the middle-ish. And I'm going to turn it down because I don't want it to be overpowering. I'm going to start off with these ones too. Alright, so it seems to naturally stop right there. So I'm going to put it... So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it around the start here. Alright, let's ease that in. So another trick you want to actually do is you want to make sure that there's always 2 frames of fade in, at least, for each sound effect you have. And fade out as well. You don't want it to just like hard start or hard stop, because then it sounds bad. I'm going to put one more seagull sound in there. And it kind of ends abruptly, so I'm going to have to fade that out. And finally, we want to add some cars passing by. So I have a bunch of car sound effects right here. So let's see a car leave sound effect. No. Alright, so let's... And I like that you can kind of hear it fade out too, so... Let's make it really low though, because we want it to make it sound like it's far away. And now let's do one more. Not that one. Okay. That's our last one. Let's put it at the very start here. This is a very short clip. It's only about a few seconds long. However, it should sound how we want it to sound. Alright, y'all. Now let's just sit back and relax and enjoy the waves. It's like I'm really there. Alternatively, next time you're on a beach, you can also just record a video And then you can just put that into the background of your video itself. Do not do this trick if you're trying to make a war film. Now this is ambience. This is the natural sound of your setting. This is so important because without this, your video will be empty. And just a quick tip, go on Audacity and just let your microphone record like 2 minutes of your room. Let that run under any scene you have that's indoors. Atmosphere is so important, and like 50% of it is made up with your ambience. But ambience is really just a mixing pot of sound effects that are meant to play throughout the scene. So what about more action-y sound effects? What about stuff that's supposed to play at certain times? Like footsteps. Or the sound of someone walking through the door. What about something a little bit more specific? Now, maybe some of these sound effects we could safely record ourselves. But some of this stuff is a bit too specific, and not all of us got sound design knowledge to make some of this stuff on our own. Like, how'd they make that? Some of these specific sound effects can be really hard to find. You gotta know the proper keywords, and especially onomatopoeia. Being able to search the right things to find what you need is a very useful skill, and I recommend that you learn it. But in the meantime, I made my sound library available for download in the description, so go check it out if you want. Video games can be a really good source of sound effects, but make sure you don't get into the habit of relying on them because you do want to figure out on some level how to make your own. Now, as a quick demonstration, allow me to input some of these sound effects for this shot of Daredevil running from Green Goblin's bombs. I'm serious about this shit, bro. Now, this segment is actually very long, so if you want to skip all this, just skip to here. But there is some important information in here, so this shot. A couple bombs being thrown, Daredevil runs, and then the Green Goblin chases after him on the glider. So what I need first is some explosion sounds. I think I want to work on that first. So I'm gonna go into my sound library, look for some explosions. I have a lot of explosions saved up now. So let's see how this one sounds like. Now that sounds powerful and punchy. I like that. So let's put it in. That's way too loud. All right, so that's one. Let's actually use the same bomb sound effect for both explosions, but we're gonna find a way to differentiate them in a bit, and you'll see how. And the exact same volume as well at negative 18.9 decibels. Oh yeah, one more thing about whenever you want to make videos and stuff. Make sure that your audio is never peaking. You never want it to go past negative 6 decibels, okay? I feel like that's, like negative 6 and negative 12, that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to stay in. Anything more than that is crazy. And it hurts your audience's ears, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so we got 2 sound effects right there, but let's also add a little bit more of a pop to one of them at least. So one cool thing you can do is you can combine multiple sound effects at the same time, so that way you can give it a bit more of a unique punch. And it can be really useful for differentiating sounds, especially if you have a lot of the same sound effect type going on. Like this scene is gonna have a lot of explosions, so I imagine I'm gonna be doing a lot of this to sort of make each explosion sound similar but also different. All right, so let's see how that sounds. All right, so I actually want this one to be a little bit louder because I do like that initial punch it has. I'm not even gonna play that. I know it's gonna break somebody's ears. Turn that down. Let's see how it sounds. Maybe they're a little bit too distinct now. I think it's a lot better because you can still hear it, but it's not like powerful. Like so, the sound of the bombs exploding. So a little running gag I want to have with these goblin bombs, specifically the ones in my videos, is I want them to make a little screaming sound like in Spectacular Spider-Man, but I want the scream to be the explosion sound from Donkey Kong Country 2 whenever you kill one of the enemies. So it sounds like this. Check it out. Boom. Nope, that's not the right one. Boom, Control V. And now I have to focus on Daredevil's movements as well. So I'm gonna give him some whoosh sound, some whoosh, a whoosh. Like that, boom. And what I'm actually going to do is another tip you can do is you can speed up your sound so that way it has a different pitch and a different sort of like sound, and it can help differentiate it from everybody else using the same sound because we all use the same whoosh sound, like not even just brick filmers but every YouTuber. And we got lucky here because it seems like Daredevil is jumping at the same time that Goblin's throwing the bomb, so that way the whoosh sound accounts for both. Alright, now what I want to do is add some footstep sounds because he's taking some steps. I always use this one. The only downside is that I have to kind of like I have to extract each individual footstep from it, and it's kind of tedious. But whatever it takes. Every time he hits the ground, that's when I gotta make the footstep sound effect activate. Okay, so I do want to have a sound effect for when he pulls out the bombs. So yeah, like that. That's kind of like that sounds a little bit dangerous. I could maybe I could do something better. Maybe I can use the bomb activate sound. So let's just cut it there. Excellent. That has the high-tech sound that Green Goblin's known for, but it also still has the kind of mechanical sparking sound that like a bomb would have. So that's what I mean when you can combine 2 sounds to make something completely new. Now the last thing left is just for the Goblin glider. Now for this particular glider, because he's the weed goblin, I use a bong sound. I think it's funny. So let's see the water. feel bad for the young people watching this, but he's the villain, so don't do drugs. Actually, no, I don't think I should turn it down because I want it. That's the hard part, right? I want this to be audible. So right now you can see it's peaking a bit. I'm gonna have to fix that in a bit. For now, let's just put the sound effects together. So let's see where's my hover sound. Hover. I have a hoverboard sound. Hover engine. This is the one I typically use for this stuff. And now the sound for when he actually takes off and goes forward. I actually do have a sound effect for that too. Jetpack. And it's from Fortnite. Can you believe it? Well, I know I have another one too. Let's see. Let's just add in jet. See if I have that. I swear I had one. Jet takeoff. Yeah, that's what I thought. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually take it in from the peak of its sound. I'm gonna fade it in when it's the right time for when like he actually like goes forward. So let's do that. All right, boom. Now I want it to be. Now the fade in has to be quick. So I'm gonna add a keyframe right there. And in 2 frames, it's gonna go from 0 to like 100. Or -15, I guess. Now that's not bad. Now I just want one last punch. And I like this sound effect a lot for that. That really sounds like you're burning jet fuel. Alright, now the only thing is it peaks for a bit. And it peaks right around the footstep sound effect. So I'm gonna have to turn that a lot more down. That's right there. Now the last thing is the music. Okay, we want to make it so the music is still audible. So let's see what happens if we turn it all the way back up to normal. Alright, I feel like it's a little loud. It is hitting this -0 to -6 range, which is dangerous, but it isn't peaking. Okay, as long as it's not peaking. In a scene like this, when the chaos is really, really going, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit louder than normal, because this is the time you kind of expect it to be louder. I'm excited for this video, y'all. Alright, next up, we gotta talk about music. Now, rule number 1, never use copyrighted music unless you want to die. Now, I actually do want to talk about music for a bit because I can go on and on and on and on forever. I'm serious, okay? I think music is one of the most, probably the most important part of your film's soul, of your film's unique identity. It's what can truly separate a scene that no one remembers to a scene that everybody remembers. And I'm serious about this, okay? Think about the most memorable, iconic movie scenes you've ever seen in your life. Half of that is because of the music, in my personal opinion, in my personal objective fact. Now listen, okay, I know we're making brick films and YouTube animation, so maybe it's not that serious. But sometimes it is. I'm serious about this shit, bro. Now, typically, I like my videos to feel bright, vibrant, energetic, and fun. You know, I like to keep the energy jovial. So I'm gonna play a jovial tune.
I can run away now and live to more of another day.
But sometimes the energy changes fast, and my bright and jovial tune now has to get a little bit dangerous.
I morbed him, and I'll do it again to... Oh.
And sometimes, things get a little heartfelt. I seem to already be out of gas. When did things get like this? I remember a time. I played a lot of video games as a kid, and because of that, I got like an encyclopedic knowledge of all these game soundtracks and different types of tunes that I know I'd like to play during specific parts of my own videos. But relying on game soundtracks, much like relying on game sound effects, can also be a bad thing. I mean, for one, it's not your work. And for two, if you're using something a lot of other people have used in their own films, the identity of your film will struggle to stand out and be unique. And that's just kind of how it is. So what's the best way to be unique in our soundtrack? Get yourself a copy of Ableton and start composing. I'm serious about this. Or at least GarageBand. I don't know, something. Get into it. This is your film we're talking about, man. Or maybe get your producer friend to make something too. And if you want your action scenes to really, really pop, you should pick the song first and then direct the action of the sequence around the beats of that song. I'm not talking about matching every action to the beat, like in Baby Driver or something. I'm talking about like letting the action of your sequence build up while the music is also building up too. Or if the music dips in energy a bit, you can use that moment to have your characters talk to each other while they're fighting. Why don't you just go in there and drink their blood? And of course, you want to time it so that when the music reaches its crescendo, so does the action of your video.
Spider-Man, oh shit!
And they can work together in some really, really cool, fantastic way. And a bit of advice. Make sure that you control your music track's volume throughout its playtime. You want to turn it down when people are talking, but when the action gets going, you gotta turn that up. Now, your music should rarely, if ever, overpower the sound effects and dialogue of the scene, but it should be audible enough to set the mood. Finally, voice acting. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth into voice acting right now because I feel like that's such a very dense topic and it honestly deserves its own video. But I can tell you this, the way your characters speak and sound has a huge impact on the feel of your video. From the inflection of your character's voice to the very specific words you choose, all of it matters. If you're the one voice acting, speak confidently and clearly. Now, I know voice acting can be a little weird, okay? And you might get self-conscious talking to yourself in like these crazy terms when there's other people in the house or your neighbors are listening too. Trust me, I've been there. I'm there every day. I'm there right now. But it doesn't matter how you feel. You gotta act with confidence. Now, personally, I do this by being delusional. I'm serious. When I hop onto the mic, I gotta convince myself I am all these Lego characters in this Lego world going through all their Lego problems. I must allow myself to feel the same emotions that they feel, so that way I can communicate it to you, the audience, the emotions I wanna make you feel. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, block out the rest of the world, and act. Now, there's a lot more to this topic than what I discussed here today. Sound design, voice acting, and music, they're all very technical topics. However, one of the main jobs of sound is to get feelings and emotions out of your audience members. And it's integral to understand why it works and how to do it. That way you can use the right sounds. Next time I cover sound, it will be a lot more focused on the technical aspects of it. You know, things like effects or what kind of microphone you should use, what kind of input you should use. But in order to use that effectively, I do think you need to understand the concepts in this video. So until next time, thank you very much for watching the tutorial. If you learned anything or relearned anything you forgot, please let me know.
Different. It's really different.